Hello everybody, welcome to Shogi Ramen TV. いらっしゃいませ. Let's enjoy shogi with me. Today, I will explain the professional Kifus about Yamasaki versus Aoshima. This is last week's game on the NHK tournament, and it was very interesting, so I want to share with you. Let's see. Center is Yamasaki and Gote is Aoshima. Okay. Yamasaki played the Ibisha and Aoshima opened the bishop line. And Aoshima closed the bishop line, so the Aoshima would be the Furibisha. And Aoshima push the pawn, edge pawn, before the ranging the rook. It is one way to ask the castle of the center. And Yamasaki answered, I want to choose the Anaguma or more strong castle. If the Yamasaki push back the pawn, Aoshima can change the Ibisha because the Ibisha with the edge bogging is very strong. So this push pawn timing is very interesting. And the push pawn again. And Yamasaki moved the gold here. And it is important to keep the king here before the rook range to the right side, because there is a still possibility to play the static rook. So if you move the king here, the opponent will change to Ibisha. So keep this position is important. And Aoshima didn't ranging rook yet, so this pushing pawn is the same reason. And finally Aoshima choose the Shikenbisha, so then the king can move here. And Aoshima also moved the king. And Yamasaki chose this bishop. This is the Millennium castle, or another castle like the attacking edge. And Aoshima moved the silver here. This moving silver is important. So if the Aoshima didn't move the silver here and he moved the king here, then there is a risk to be attacked from here by using the bishop and the rook. And you cannot move the rook here to protect this position. And if you move the silver at this timing, it's too late. Typically this rook is a good move, but in this case you lost the silver more. So this is a bad position because the Aoshima's castle is not completed and Yamasaki has one more silver. So this moving silver against this bishop is important. Then push the pawn, bishop, and moving the silver here. And Aoshima chose the king here. So typically, if Aoshima choose the Mino castle, the moving silver is better than the moving king here, because the castle is more stable. But this king meaning there is another possibility of the castle. And Yamasaki creating the Millennium Castle. This pawn is interesting, and this means that Aoshima don't choose the Mino Castle. If the Aoshima wants to create the Mino Castle, this pawn is not so good. It would be the weak point of the Mino Castle. Jumping knight. So the Aoshima tried to create the Millennium Castle. So this game is the Millennium, Ibisha Millennium versus Furibisha Millennium. It's also very interesting game I have never seen. This is good move to create the castle more strong. And at this timing, so typically the move the gold from here to complete the castle is good, but the Yamasaki think the opponent castle is still unsafe now, so he thought this is a timing to start attack. This pushing pawn is the meaning is to move the bishop and to open the bishop line to use the bishop and rook. This pawn is important for the Shikenbisha. And Yamasaki start to attack by exchanging the pawn. And the head of the bishop is the weak point, but it is difficult to defend. Defend by silver is the rook can take this pawn, and defending by gold is one way to defend, but the gold should be near the king. So the Aoshima decided not to defend. This is one way. And this gold is the meaning one meaning to protect the head of the knight. And Yamasaki's castle has a weak point of the head of the knight, so Yamasaki tried to protect by silver because there is a chance to attack, and Aoshima tried to start attack by pushing pawn. This pawn is interesting. If the take by bishop, Aoshima can move the silver here to attack the bishop. So the take by pawn is the joseki. And next, this pawn. This pushing pawn is interesting. If the take by bishop, the rook, opponent rook can take this pawn. So this pushing the pawn meaning the bishop cannot take this pawn. If you take by pawn, Aoshima can drop the pawn here to attack the knight. So the Yamasaki tried to protect by silver. And Aoshima continue the pushing pawn, another pawn. This pawn, pushing pawn is also interesting. If take by bishop, rook can take this pawn. If take by pawn, this sacrifice of the pawn, meaning that Aoshima can use the pawn in the any position in the line. So in the end game, dropping the pawn here is very strong defense. So this sacrifice of the pawn is very nice, sometimes nice. And Yamasaki chose taking this pawn than this pawn. And Aoshima take the pawn. And typically taking by silver is the good style for keep the castle safe. But in this case, if take by silver, Aoshima can take the knight by bishop and take by gold and jumping the knight to attack the bishop and gold. This is the one good attack. So the Yamasaki chose the gold. Yamasaki's castle is getting weak than before. And Aoshima thought it's a chance to attack, so try to attack by using the pawn. And this pawn is also cannot take by bishop because the rook can take this pawn. Then the Yamasaki took the pawn by gold, and Aoshima decided to start strong aggressive attack by taking the bishop. And this sacrifice of the bishop is create a chance to use the rook over here. This rook entering the area is difficult to defend. Just dropping the pawn is the rook can move here and take knight, so it is difficult to defend this rook attack. So from here, Yamasaki use many tesuji. The first tesuji is this pawn. If the gold back, Yamasaki push the pawn to attack the knight. So Yamasaki take this pawn and pushing the pawn. This pawn is also interesting to move the gold to bad position. And in this case, it looks just pushing the pawn looks the same result, but it is different because in this case, opponent Aoshima can ignore this pawn because of the gold position is here. So there is a difference. Gold is here and gold is here, like this. So after taking the knight, take by gold will keep the castle more stable. So but if the gold is here, after taking the knight, Aoshima needs to take by silver. So this means the castle is getting weak. So this pawn is very interesting tesuji to move the gold to the bad position. And after moving the gold to the bad position, the castle is getting weak now. And Aoshima try to attack by rook. So now gold is not connected to anyone, so need protect. So there is a possibility to move the gold here or to move the gold here. So this is the beginning of the end game. So taking the turn is very important. So the Yamasaki chose this gold. So in general, gold is better to be near the king, but in this case, this gold to attack the rook can get the turn. So now Yamasaki get the turn, and Yamasaki use this turn to do the good defense. This dropping the pawn is very nice defense to protect by the rook, and this pawn is protected by the bishop and the rook. So this pawn is very strong. And Aoshima also using the tesuji by using the pawn. This pawn is also to cut the disconnection of the silver and gold. And Yamasaki chose this silver. This silver is good move to near the king. He can protect this area. And Aoshima decided to defend because there's a difficult to attack. So this kind of the rebuilding the castle is also important technique. And from here, Yamasaki used interesting techniques using the pawn. This pawn is interesting technique to move the gold to the bad position. If the Aoshima ignore this pawn can promote it and exchange to the gold. So needs to take by gold. So this kind of the moving gold to the bad position is very important to break the castle. And this pawn is also interesting. This pawn means creating the base attack position to use the knight fork. Then Yamasaki took the knight. Next, he can drop the knight here. And Aoshima also tried to attack by using the knight and the pawn. If the take by silver, Aoshima can drop the silver. This is strong attack, so Yamasaki decided to ignore this attack. This knight is also very strong. If the take by I take gold next, it's very strong. So the Aoshima take by gold. And the Aoshima take the knight, took the knight. And in this position, if the Aoshima take the silver next, but this is not Tsumero, so Yamasaki can attack instead of taking this promoted pawn like this. Aoshima also needs to take the promoted pawn and take by bishop. And Aoshima try to attack by using the knight. And this knight is not Tsumero, and next he can take the silver, but it is also not Tsumero, so there's a chance to attack. So Yamasaki using the pawn. So there's many techniques to move the gold to away from the castle. And this pawn is also very interesting tesuji to move the king to the dangerous position. So this pawn cannot take by gold because of the rook. So Yamasaki Aoshima needed to take by gold, king. So now king is out of the castle, so he's in danger. So this bishop is not check, but next he can take the gold, and this is Tsumero. So Aoshima wants to take the silver, but it's not Tsumero, so he will lose. So Aoshima chose another more strong attack. This is the next he can take the bishop and escape the king and take the gold. So this attack is stronger than taking the silver, just taking silver. But Yamasaki used a good move. This move is very good because this has two meanings. to escape the silver from the knight attack and to protect the bishop. In the endgame, it is important to move the multiple meanings. Aoshima tried to attack using the pawn, but this is not Tsumero, so Yamasaki tried to attack, take by gold. This is Tsumero. Next, he can drop the knight here. Aoshima tried to attack, and this check is meaning the attacking to the king and defend the knight attack. So this bishop is nice move, have two meanings. Yamasaki escaped the king, and so there is no good attack, so the Aoshima need to defend. So in the endgame, attack and defense combination is very important, and it's difficult to learn, need to practice. And Yamasaki cannot attack from here, so he chose the defend. This bishop is good position to protect this pawn. And Aoshima tried to attack by using knight, escape. This promoted pawn is strong because of the bishop is here. And Yamasaki tried to attack because there is no defense. And Aoshima tried to create more strong attack because taking the gold is not slow and not Tsumero. So Aoshima tried to create more effective attack. Yamasaki took the silver, and so the castle is now not so strong, so Yamasaki found the tsume. If the take by bishop, there is a tsume, and Yamasaki did it by the dropping knight and dropping knight. This sacrifice is very interesting. And dropping the gold. I think this tsume is not so easy, but for the professional players it would be easy. And dropping the gold, escape, and dropping the silver. Aoshima resigned at this moment. What happened in the next? Take by silver, take by gold, take by king, and rook can take this gold, and king is also already surrounded. It's easy tsume, and there is another possibility. For example, if the king escape instead of taking the gold, but the Yamasaki can drop the silver here and escape and check by rook. There is a good pieces to make checkmate. Like this, it is also checkmated. So this game is very new strategies using the Millennium Castle by the Ibisha and Furibisha, and there is many tesuji by using the pawn to move the piece to bad position. So I think it's a good example to learn the techniques of the pawn. Thank you very much. See you next ramen. Bye bye.